I haven't heard that discussion, and I don't have too many experiences from being in other beds in other countries. So you can tell me, how is it here? What's your stance on this subject?
Well, I've heard some stories about two people, one bed, two blankets.
No, that's a sign of early divorce.
Hello, Metal.de Shatsies, Or here, and I'm super excited today. Not only I get to meet Sammy of Lost Society, we're also celebrating their lovely album that was released just yesterday. It's called Hell is a State of Mind. First day of tour right here in Cologne. The emotions are high, but I love the sounds. I cannot wait to see it on stage. Thank you all for joining me. Sammy, how are you doing?
I'm doing really good, thank you. I'm really excited about the fact that it's the first time that we put out a record and immediately get the chance to tour it. And I think, obviously starting in Germany it's a privilege for us because we have such a long-standing history with our fans in this country. We've had so many amazing nights in Cologne in the past. We've done Walk-In a couple of times, Summer Breeze, stuff like that, and we do know that the connection is very real with our fans here. So honestly, I'm really excited. Obviously, we're debuting pretty much all of the new songs that we're doing tonight are going to be debuts for it because Dead People Scare Me did come out before the previous festival summer, so we brought that in sort of slowly on, but now we're bringing a lot of new tracks. So it's exciting. It's been a hectic day, but it's going to be a great show, I feel like.
Well, I have a feeling it's going to be very sweaty as well. Every track that I started listening to, I thought that's going to be a crowd jumper. Everyone's going to love that. So I feel like tonight is going to be very sweaty. I'm really excited for that. But as much as I love the album, the tracks are very dark. Some of the topics are about mental health, your commentary about society. So I'm going to try and bring it back to the positive side. What's the most positive memory from recording the album that again touches on some struggles around us?
Well, I mean, I'm actually going to circle back to the comment that I think the funny thing about this record and the sort of lyrical thematics is that a lot of the lyrics and a lot of the song titles and stuff, they feel very dark, but the actual sort of idea behind them is actually very sort of empowering, which is, I think it creates a cool sort of play with two extremes, that the music is very dark, it sounds very aggressive, and the song titles may seem very dark, but the idea of them is really more to tell people that the idea of that not everything is as final as you make it out to be. Those issues that you feel in your life are not always as final as your own brain makes them seem like it. And, that's the whole story of the record. But bringing it back to what you actually asked me, probably one of the coolest moments of the whole record was obviously that we have actually a German orchestra playing on this record. We were graciously got the privilege to have the Babelsberg Film Orchestra directly from Babelsberg, 40 people play string sections for this record, and obviously, witnessing that was incredible because, at heart, we're just the same guys who just fucking, we had a rehearsal place underground in a little city in Finland, and, we just started writing music because we thought it was fun, and then suddenly being in a situation where that the same people who have contributed to countless movies and Rammstein records and crazy shit like that are suddenly playing on our record. So that was definitely one of the moments where you had to kind of pinch yourself and sort of just be in the moment and be very happy about where we are.
And what you just mentioned, working with 40 other musicians, was that also the biggest challenge, or was something else separated this recording from the previous albums?
Well, there were a lot of things that definitely made this time around very different, but that was more so sort of the process in Finland, within the band and within our producer and co-writer, because, we were in the studio for probably about, the better side of 3.5 months, and we took a very organic route on this record. All the drums that you hear on the record, we're not just putting samples on everything that's being played. We wanted the actual organic feel of the drums. We have analog, actual guitar amplifiers. It's not just digital. And it's like we took all the necessary steps to make this sound like human beings are behind this record. So in that sense, we faced more challenges and more sort of setbacks in that sense when we were recording the actual instruments. But honestly, I mean, big up to classically trained people, because they don't fuck around. You give them the notes and they're going to play. It's going to be 1 or 2 takes and that's it, which, obviously makes our job much easier also. And, obviously we did all of the preliminary work was done so professionally, and we did all the arrangements, we did all the notations and everything before handing it over to them. So honestly, at the moment when they got the notes and they were in the situation where they were recording, it was actually very simple, which is great.
Well, the end product is amazing. I love that. I love how you can detect those orchestral arrangements, and I love how every track is a bit different but also feels very familiar. So I enjoyed all of it, and as I said, I'm really excited to hear it on stage later. I'm kind of shocked of where I'm going to see all the 40 musicians joining you, the Bubbleworth. Orchestra joining you as well?
We have this very top secret technology directly from Finland, which actually allows us to put 40 people into this little computer that delivers all of the tracks without actually having the people here.
Okay, well, I love that. I love there's going to be enough room for dancing as well. But we already touched on the progression and the differences between this album and the previous one. I want to touch on some other differences that maybe are still the same or a change. In the past, you said that you tend to eat 5 meals per day. Is that still the case?
That doesn't sound like me, but I probably might have said that sometime. I'll be the first to admit that I do have issues with eating, like just that I forget to do it very often. But on tour, I feel like this is probably the most controlled environment to potentially eat 5 meals a day, because they're actually delivered to you. So I might have said that, but it doesn't sound like me.
Okay. Well, we're gonna have to check on that and make sure that you're eating well. But also something that came from the previous album was Stitches, that touches on mental health, obviously, and the struggles. Do you feel like that became easier either for yourself or for people around you?
I mean, definitely, because, the last record, many people obviously know, some people don't, that the whole, lyrical story of that record was based upon a very, very dark period in my life, which honestly, in hindsight thinking, making this record or making that record, releasing it, recording it, that was the saving grace in my life. And I feel like, with this album, it was sort of like starting from a clean slate after dealing with all of that shit, going through intensive therapy and everything like this. And I feel like, it's a subject matter that will always be something that we talk about, because, writing the lyrics, obviously I can't write for anyone else's, or I can't be in anyone else's shoes but my own. And that is a subject that is very near and dear to me, and obviously very close in my life. So I feel like I'm always going to be talking about it, but sort of the angle might change. Like, as I said earlier, with this record, it is obviously, it's very heavy. The record is very heavy, but in the end of the day, when you closely look at the storyline, it is more written from the angle of empowerment than sort of dwelling in that feeling or sensation.
And the society around you, I actually spoke to another Finnish band a couple of months ago, and they've mentioned that the Finnish public is not very open to talk about feelings and about mental health. Do you feel like that's also changing? Do you have a specific call for the people around you to accept that, to talk about their feelings, to be there for people that are struggling?
I mean, it's definitely true that, if you look at the bigger public, it's definitely a fact that people are they're very apprehensive to talk about things that matter. And obviously, I feel like there's that stigma, obviously, of the whole, being a man, you can't feel sad or you can't cry and other shit like that. And unfortunately, I mean, it still exists. It might be getting a bit better, and, people are more open about, just even from music itself, there's so many bands that openly talk about this. So in the end of the day, it does change some people's opinions. It makes them feel heard, and sort of it gives that feeling that they realize that they're not alone with those feelings. But definitely for the bigger public, it still is just as sort of difficult as it always has been. And I mean, if you look around everywhere in the world, I mean, I could vow that 90% of the biggest issues, politically and everything in the world are just because someone was too sort of, someone just couldn't open up and deal with their own shit, so they're just taking it out on everyone else.
Well, I'm going to try and confront you with another cultural gap that you tell me if it affects the Finnish public as well. At home, living in a partnership, do you have one single blanket or a big one or two separate ones? Where are you on that cultural gap?
Wait, that wasn't like a metaphor. That was a literal question. Dude, a big ass bed and one big blanket.
Have you seen that being different in different cultures, or have you heard that discussion?
I haven't heard that discussion, and I don't have too many experiences from being in other beds in other countries. So you can tell me, how is it here? What's your stance on this subject?
Well, I've heard some stories about two people, one bed, two blankets.
No, that's a sign of early divorce.
Yeah, we're going over everything, the spectrum of emotions and therapy. I love that.
That's what we're here for, man. That's what we're here for.
Okay, and it connects me to one of my favorite singles and videos of Dead People Scare Me, but the living make me sick. Is it more of a personal thing about personal social anxiety, or again something about the global world around us, about activism for people to be nicer to each other? Where should we take it as a comment and a hint for activism?
I mean, it would be impossible to sort of say that it's not in some way about everything going on in the world. I mean, the sort of, when you start talking about, a theme like that, and you start talking about, or you open that can of worms about what is wrong with the world, it's a pretty large subject, and it can be just from, the culture of paying more attention to your cell phone than paying attention to real people. It can be about what's going on, in various countries at the moment. It can be about war. It can be about personal battle. It can be about so many different things. But it's, down to the line, it's just my observations and my feelings about, what goes on when I open the news and I'm like, okay, this again and this again. It's like, what sort of like makes me as anxious as ever is that, I was, it was 2010 when I came up with the name Lost Society, and the fact that name is just sort of more and more relevant as years go by, I think that's pathetic. But it's just, I feel like it's always going to be something that one or two songs on a record, it'll be nice to sort of open up a bit about more global issues and less than just my point of view on something very personal, but also just talk about and sort of remind people that for that song in general, it's like being brought up on with zombie movies and horror movies and stuff like that. I think we can just all sort of admit and realize that those aren't the things that you're supposed to be scared of in this planet.
And are you still optimistic that music and art can change the world, make it a bit better? I mean, every day you open the news and you read about a new war or a new conflict. Do you feel like music and art can still make it a better place?
Fuck no. I mean, it'll offer people ease, and that's what we're we're privileged to be in a position that we're able to offer our art for people. And definitely, I mean, in that sense, I mean, that was blatantly put, obviously it does help people, individuals. I wouldn't say it's gonna, it's not gonna stop a war, but it's not gonna make the war worse either.
I mean, David Hasselhoff, he brought down the Berlin Wall and he ended war. So maybe there's something here. I'm still gonna be optimistic. I might send you an email to ask for more explanations, but I'm still optimistic. But something maybe less optimistic, it might be my abandonment issues, is the track Is This What You Wanted, that talks about sacrifices and for dreams, and maybe sometimes the negative side of following your dreams. Should I take that as a send hint of the end of the band, or is it just my abandonment issues?
No, I mean, it's basically, it's in a way, even though the subject matter is very, it's grim, it's very sort of melancholic, but in the end of the day, what I'm saying is that, I sort of wouldn't have it any other way. It's like you recognize the fact that you've sacrificed so many things. You recognize the fact that, there's so many moments that you missed and so many crucial moments you're never going to get back. But in the end of the day, it's being towards something that you love. It's being towards chasing a dream that, you were born to do. So in that sense, it is like, it's a melancholic lyric, but still, you know, as I said earlier, it's an empowering, or in an empowering way. And I think it's also like, it's naive to ever try to give people that thought that, you know, being a musician is just, oh, it's, you know, sunshine and fucking happiness and stuff like that. It's, you know, I mean, it's waiting for 22 hours of the day. It's traveling, being away from your loved ones, missing moments you'll never get back. But in the end of the day, it still is it's the best thing that you do. It's the best thing that you sort of want to do, and you always want more of it. And, you know, I mean, it is an addiction of its own, but, you know, it could definitely be a worse addiction also.
Well, thank you for calming me down, and thank you for keeping it up and bringing us more of these great sounds. And I'm going to try and get your help in getting more people involved, because as I said, I love the sounds and I'm really excited for tonight's show. So how can we get more people to join us, to feel safe, to feel welcome, either in the mosh pit or to be the next generation of musicians? Tomorrow is International Women's Day. So to make sure that everyone, regardless of their gender, regardless of their sexuality, their ethnicity, where they're coming from, for everyone to feel included, from your experience as a musician, but also as a fan, as a traveler, what can we do, or we need to stop immediately to make everyone feel welcome and definitely safe to join us?
I mean, the thing that comes to mind always, number one, for what we shouldn't do, and what I think especially the metal community has a lot to sort of work with, is the whole idea and concept of just gatekeeping stuff and being like, oh no, you know, this is, you know, you're doing, your thing is a bit different, so you're not allowed to be included in this and this and this and this, which is like, it's like, it's everything that metal is, you know, not supposed to be. Because, you know, when I was 7 years old, when I heard my, you know, first Iron Maiden track and started getting into this whole sort of larger community of you know, heavy music and stuff like that, I think the you know, first and foremost, what I realized is like, okay, this is where, you know, the outcasts can be. This is a place where all the misfits and every single person, you know, regardless of their opinions, where they're from, where they're going, they'll be accepted. And I feel like there's a group of people who are doing their, you know, their utmost that they can sort of cancel that effect and sort of try to make it a very sort of secret group or something like that. That's absolute bullshit. And I think it starts from, you know, going to a show and you know, you can meet people that you've never met before, and you can hang out, and, you know, the music will sort of bring you together. It'll connect you. You'll have a good time. And just remember just to pay attention to things that matter. I mean, it's down to that. In my head, you know, this community, be it, you know, metal music or punk rock or whatever, it's for everyone. This is the place where sort of, when you don't find that place where you're supposed to be, or that you don't find that place where you belong in the world, this is where you go. And this is supposed to be the place where everyone's like open armed. At least we are. Like, fucking, you know, come see a show, we'll hang out.
Well, I love that. Sammy, thank you very much for taking a stand and making the space around you more welcoming for everyone. Hopefully it will just expand, so I appreciate that. As we said, the album is out now, was released yesterday. It's crazy. Hell is a State of Mind, and you're on tour starting today. But for the people that either missed it, listen to the interview after the show is over, can we expect to see you back in Germany for festival season? Any surprises? Something you can share with us already?
I mean, I'm gonna give the famous, you know, big things are coming. You know, there's nothing I'm allowed to disclose, but, you know, festival season is coming up, and there's gonna be a lot of additions. I'll put it that way. And, you know, nearing the end of the year, there might be something coming up. And, you know, I mean, we have a new record out, as you just said, and it's, you know, it's very early on in this whole campaign of Hell is a State of Mind. So we are definitely going to be back in Germany doing even more songs. That is 1000% for sure.
Sammy, it's been a pleasure talking to you. As I said, I love the sounds. I love that every time I listen to it, I find something new. So I just keep on going back and I enjoy it. And I have a feeling that after tonight, I'm going to have more memories and more things to look forward to. Is there anything else you want to say to fans and fans out there before we say goodbye?
What I always want to say is to everyone, especially, you know, all of our friends and family here in Germany, thank you for the endless support. And, you know, because, you know, we create music, we record music, but you are the ones who keep this whole thing alive. You know, whether it's buying the record, listening to the songs, coming to the shows, buying the merch, everything, it's without you, we couldn't be here. So thank you for your patience. You know, sometimes it takes us a long time to come back, but we promise we will always come back. So thank you.
The mighty and talented Sammy of Lost Society. It's been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you very much for your sound and your words and empowerment.
Thank you so much, man.
Okay.